When you've had your skin in the game for over 30 years as a particular studio renowned for a certain type of game, you set a very high bar of expectations for yourself every time you release a new product. And that's the problem of Cyan Games. They're the studio behind Myst, Riven, most recently Abduction, which was great. And with their new game Firmament, it went for a Kickstarter campaign, offered to be the biggest and badassest world that they've put together so far. And in many ways, it does succeed. However, this game also has a distinct feel of needing another 3 months in the oven to work out all of the kinks, issues, bugs and problems that I encountered throughout my attempt to play through this game. I've not been able to quite finish it because I've got so frustrated with all of the bugs that I've just parked it for now, but I wanted to put out a review based on the about 80% of the way through the game that I've got, because I feel like I get the game, but I don't want to come back to it until it's perfectly playable. In the world of Firmament, you play as a character that's awoken by a lady who has died. Oh yes. She's passing on her mission to you, as you will probably to someone else, as she keeps on telling you. And the idea is to try and work out how to keep the world of Firmament alive and running, because it seems like everyone's disappeared or died. It's a bit like Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, the science version, from the initial kind of outline plot, although it does deviate off into different areas as you progress. The idea is that you're moving between 3 different realms that have to be brought to life and empowered, and you do this by solving lots and lots of different puzzles. The first thing I'll say about this game is just how beautiful and well realised the worlds are that you traverse around. You've got St Andrew's Vaults, which are like a mixture of a foresty world that's starting to take over a very industrial vault complex. So you've got nature versus brutalism all combined in together, and it really reminds me of like the TV series Life After People, but in the best way possible, because it just feels creepy and run down and a little bit like you shouldn't be there. However, when you end up in the reservoir area, this feels like everything that Middle Tyrrell is in Lord of the Rings, where it's a ginormous spiring like shining beacon with this like very clean cut reservoir around it. But again, you've got this kind of desolate, empty world that is just left to the wind, basically. In terms of story, because there's not much in the way of like overt score or like a particular narration, you're left picking up various different documents to explain what's gone on with the world around you, reading different people's notes or scientific discoveries or diaries. And the lady that passed away at the beginning does follow you around very, very slowly, explaining what happened to her and the world around you. But my God, she's slow. And she doesn't half make sure a sentence really, really strings out. She comes from the school of David Attenborough French version. But yeah, there we go. The last thing I'll say about the graphics is that the way how Cyan have built the different realms is that you're constantly treated to a vista that shows you where you've been and where you're kind of going, because there's a lot of elevation changes, there's lifts, there's ladders, there's cranes, and you're riding things all the time. So as you're doing that, you're kind of going, oh, I was over there, and oh, look at that pretty bit over there. And it's a really clever way of showing you your progression throughout puzzles, but also your progression and like stance in the world, because there's no like big maps or anything. It's very old school in that kind of reliance of you need to know where you're going. So how do puzzles work in this game? Well, you are equipped with something called the adjunct, which essentially works like a key, and you plug it into all of these different switches for doors, ladders, cranes, lifts, all different kind of contraptions, and it will bring you up various different options. So it might be to turn something on or off, or to raise or lower something, or to make something go forward or back, and then you'll be able to flip sometimes between multiple different settings on things. And what Cyan have done, have taken this kind of binary on-off switch marker and constantly put it into different scenarios as you move throughout the game, but the principle remains the same. Plug yourself in, switch something on or off, and see what it does in the world. And that cookie cutters its way throughout the entire game of Firmament. Yes, the different situations that you're put into will do different things, but it will always come back to find the switch, turn the thing on or off, see what happens, and line it all up. And basically the difficulty curve in Firmament is working out how many different switches you need to place into different scenarios so that you can get from A to B to satisfy something. Because all of these puzzles are very look and see what happens and then try and work out all of the different issues, and quite often when you plug things into a switch, if you haven't met all of the criteria, it will say things like power 2 of 3, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm missing a power thing, let's go and look. It will point you in the right direction, so it doesn't feel like the solutions are too obtuse. But what I did run into quite often was that I would line up like 7 out of 8 things, and then I'd be like, oh, the 8th thing is the very first thing that I should have done at the beginning. And so what you'd have to do is kind of run all the way around and kind of work your way all the way back to the beginning of the puzzle, and then go again and be right, I've done that, and then you'd have to kind of shuffle things around. A little bit like being a first-person platform version of a slider puzzle. You have to slide all of the different switches into different positions so that you can actually complete the puzzle, and if you bugger up one, you bugger up the lot. And so you have to do a lot of rework. There is a reset button, but it didn't really work for me. And this brings me on to the problem that I had with this game most of all, which is the bugs. Resetting puzzles completely doesn't work for me, and I don't know what I've done, but it just doesn't seem to work. The other problem that I had was that sometimes puzzles would bug out, so I'd have to leave the realm and come back in again and then try again. I also had a problem with saving, and saving states getting corrupt, so that when I loaded up my manual save, it would say, we're going to overwrite your autosave, is that okay? And I just clicked yes. But then my manual save got corrupted, which then corrupted my autosave, so I lost all my progress, so I had to start again. This happened several times and started to get very frustrating. The next thing that I ran into was that I'd get stuck into different parts of the world. Then I noticed that audio wasn't actually playing, and then this got fixed with a bug, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should start again because I've totally missed half of the story. And I had. And I've had to redo this review several times because Cyan, to their credit, are pumping out patches that are fixing things as they go along. For me, this needed 8 to 12 more weeks in the oven so that we didn't have to have all of the players bug testing for the first 8 to 12 weeks of a release to get the game up to a fit state for everyone else. And that seems to be the way how an awful lot of game studios seem to want to go these days, and it's really frustrating, and it's a disservice and frankly a bit of a disrespect to the players. However, get beneath that, there is a decent game here, but I had to wrestle this game to the floor to get it to play, and I shouldn't feel like I have to do that with a game. And it totally has rinsed out any of the joy that I was getting from the puzzles, and in particular the world, and just exploring stuff and being like, I love the way how they've built this. I was frustrated, I was angry, I was bugged and wigged out by the fact how just nothing seemed to work as intended. And yeah, so I've parked this for the time being. I'll come back to it maybe in 6 to 12 months once all the bug patches are out. And then perhaps I'll do a secondary review. But yeah, come to this one with caution, unfortunately. And if you want a better representation of what Cyan Games can offer, Abduction, I feel, is the better game of the two. And I'd recommend that one, particularly, it's often discounted. Take care. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.